Marketing Tip Mondays with Bamboo Sparks. Marva Smith has been marketing books for a while. She digitally marketed her solo book, and within a couple of weeks, without even having a book launch, she was able to sell 70 ebooks. And remember, most of us don't sell ebooks. We wait until the launch with the physical book. So this lady, with just a little release to say my book is out, she did some stuff that pushed the book to #1 really quickly within a couple of hours after release. I saw that at work. And so she's just going to share that. Not only that, she's been getting booked on podcasts left, right, and center. So she's going to share some of those secrets to getting booked. So that's Marva Smith, author of Time to Thrive, and she's from the British Virgin Islands.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you again. It's a pleasure to be here with everyone. And I'm going to follow on from some of what Michael shared, because he really did lay that foundation for us. And what I'm going to share is actually about perhaps one that will be a quick win for you. I'm going to talk about how to get booked on podcasts, if that is your thing, if that is something that you're looking to do, because this is a fantastic way for you to market your book. So I'm going to share my screen because I have to, stay on track and have to stay on point. So I'm going to make sure that we can have some points to go to. So make sure you can see my screen, okay? Everybody's good? Okay, awesome. Let's go ahead and jump right in. So how to get booked on podcasts, and this relates whether it's podcasts or TV or radio interviews, a lot of this will still apply. The first thing is that you need to be able to start with a message. What is it that you want to get on a podcast or get on TV to talk about? You need to have a message that you need to share. And that often for us as authors is housed in our books. In the book that you just released, it's maybe the one that's been sitting on the shelf and you want to get it out there into the world. Getting on a podcast is a perfect way to do that. It could be your solo book. It could be a book that you're in with other people, whatever it is. Here's the deal. People who are hosting podcasts are looking for fresh content. They're looking for new guests to come on their show. They want to have their content that's just live and appealing to their audience. So this is really a quick win, not just for you, but for the podcast host as well. So this is just in terms of, over the past year or so, some of the podcasts that I've been able to be on, just talking about my book. And even before I had my book, and I'll talk about that in a little while as well. But what is this about getting booked? I want to think of it in terms of 3 stages. What do you do before? What do you do during when you actually get the interview? And what do you do after? So the first one, the before, is just to be yourself, to be human, to show up as a person, right? Because sometimes we get caught in this trap, when we think about marketing and promotion, we think about a brand. But I really want to encourage you to look at what it means to have a personal brand, to develop your brand online, your online presence, and to use the tools that are available to you. We have social media, for example, and we know that that's a fantastic way to get our brand out there, to get online and in person with people. And I'll share some tools that you can do, free tools that you can access at the end of this presentation. But you also want to view marketing in terms of a strategy that you have, having a plan, having some goals. Again, it goes back to the message that you want to share. You can have your speaker or media kit. Some people call this a one sheet. It's really the topics that you are talking about online. When you get onto the interview, what are the topics that you're talking about? So just having those outlined, that's super helpful for any podcast host to know in advance if you will be a good fit for them. And having a plan for what comes next. Because usually at the end of an interview, the host will ask, okay, how can people connect with you? Or how can they find out more? You want to know what that next step is that people should take with you after they've listened to that interview. The next thing is to be able to make the connection. When we talk about being human, it's all about relationships. So if you're reaching out to a podcast host or a TV show host and you want to get on their show, be mindful of how you come across. If you were sitting next to this person in a room, how would you speak with them? And that's the way you want to be able to relate, not brand to brand, but human to human. And do a little research as well so that you can find if this host is a good match for the message that you have. The next thing is you might be wondering, where do you find these connections? So how do I find podcasts to be on, or a TV show to be on? Ask around, ask your friends, ask author friends of yours if they have been on shows before. What was a good fit for them? Will this be a good fit for you as well? Maybe there's a Facebook group for your niche. See where people are getting their content from and follow up with that so that maybe you can be the guest on that show as well. And if you're looking in terms of podcasts, there are some paid services such as Podmatch, that you can get on and sign up and get matched with podcast hosts. So those are all ways to be able to lead up to the interview. So once you get the interview, how do you show up as yourself? Just be yourself. Just show up as yourself. Relax, knowing that, okay, you already got the interview. Now is your time to shine. So you tell your story with confidence. You're not trying to be somebody else. You're not trying to be the next person who was on the show before. You're just showing up as you, and you're telling your story and sharing your message. Remember that your host is the lead, so allow the conversation to flow. Listen for their cues. You're not there to run the show or anything like that. You are there to make the host shine and to make sure that this is a good fit for you and for the audience as well. So after the interview, what do? You be gracious. You make sure that you are so good that they will even ask you back. You follow up with a thank you, personal, making sure that they know how grateful you are for that interview that you just had with them. And you share that interview like crazy on your social media with your friends, on whatever platform you're on, because when they win, you win as well. And you stay in touch with them. You don't just, use people as, oh, I just needed to get on this show and that's it. You want to make sure that, again, it's human to human. And I use this example too, because here's an example of a podcast that I was on. It's called I Choose My Best Life with Dr. Sandra Dalton-Smith. And I was actually on her podcast twice. Now, she is the author of Sacred Rest. This book has been making the rounds. It's written up in all the magazines and online spaces. And really, it was an opportunity that I had. I shared, I followed up, and she asked me back. The first interview was before the book came out. And once my book was finished, she asked me back to come back and talk about the book some more. So, just be a good guest, and you never know, you might get that second invitation. So I just really want to remind you not to despise the small beginnings, because sometimes we think, well, I only have one book, it's not selling that well, I don't know, and you play yourself down. Don't do that. Make sure that you just think in terms of that one opportunity. You never know where it's going to lead. Even if that person has a small audience, the thing is, it's not your audience, so it's an opportunity nonetheless. So just take advantage of the opportunities that come your way. And as I mentioned earlier, social media is a fantastic tool to be able to build your presence online so that you can get noticed and be a potential guest on these podcasts and shows and so on. And there's a free resource guide that I can share with you. You can download it at bit.ly/20 social media, because it has 20 free tools that you can use to build your social media presence, to build your online presence, and to be able to get matched with the podcast host that you're looking for. So with that, I'm going to stop right there for now, but we can stay in touch. You can find me online on my consulting page at matrixpark.com and my personal brand at marvasmith.com. So thank you so much.